are a weak point as always, but at least some of them are played in a committed, fun way. As for Jason himself, he's probably the scariest he's ever been. Reboot Jason is a survivalist, an agile hunter who grew up fending for himself in the woods. His violence is more targeted and defensive. He's almost like Leatherface, the way he just wants to be left alone. But people won't leave him alone, and those people are gonna wind up dead. How many? Let's find out. The movie begins in 1980. We get in a prologue, motherfuckers! This Sin City-looking opening credits scene is akin to the ending of the original film. An Alice-like counselor is cornered on the beach by Mrs. Voorhees at the end of her killing spree, spurred by the drowning of her son Jason. The counselor cuts off Mrs. Voorhees' head with a machete, giving us our first recreated kill of the film. Turns out Moms was wrong about Jason drowning though. That boy is still living, and now he's all sorts of traumatized. Already hearing his mom's voice in his head.
Kill for mother.
Now it's present day, aka 2009. Though it's never specified, the movie probably takes place in New Jersey, despite being filmed around Austin, Texas. A group of horny teens are looking for a field of marijuana plants to make themselves some green.
Do you know how much money we're gonna make selling this weed? We're gonna get a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, you absolute madmen. They end up camping near the remnants of Camp Crystal Lake, which Weedman Wade knows all about. So he gives us Jason's backstory as a campfire tale.
He watched his mom being beheaded.
Good storytelling, dude, but you're no Paul Holt. Whitney here gets bored of the backstory and steps away with her boyfriend Michael, leaving the worst characters behind. And I hate saying that about Richie. He's played by Ben Feldman. That's Ginsberg. And, I mean, lots of other roles, sure. But Richie and his girlfriend Amanda are just too damn horny.
You wanna slap that ass one more time for Daddy?
Oh, Daddy like that?
Yeah, Daddy does like it.
You
Daddy
like
likes
that?
it a lot.
Seriously, somebody bonk these two. I still think the final chapter is the horniest Friday, and A New Beginning is the sleaziest, but I'll give the remake title of Boobiest Friday for sure. Especially if you're talking director's cut. That thing's more boob than movie. This movie's overwhelming boobosity may have come from Andrew Form and Brad Fuller, Platinum Dunes producers who were very involved during production. They wanted the Friday reboot to be all about blood and boobs.
And it was important to us to bring back the nudity.
For a director, they turned to German filmmaker Marcus Nispel, who had done them well directing the successful Texas Chainsaw reboot. Also returning from the Chainsaw reboot was cinematographer Daniel Pearl, who also shot the original Texas Chainsaw in '74. I like the stark look Nispel and Pearl bring to these movies, and I like that Nispel is seen here sporting a wings cap. Wade goes weed watching, and while whizzing, gets a win. But it's short-lived. Jason's here, and he ain't looking to puff pass. I love how scared Wade gets during this attack. And I'm happy he's the first to go, killed off screen by Jason. That dude was fucking annoying. Now that he's gone, you know the horny couple's gotta go. They hear a noise and Richie leaves to check it out, then Jason cuts through the tent and abducts a lady like this were Friday friggin' 7. Richie runs back to the tent, only to find his girlfriend burning in a sleeping bag and his foot suddenly caught in a bear trap. He's unable to do anything as Amanda burns to death, her body spilling out of the bag after it's done. Always found that one brutal. And broiling. On the days they shot this kill, Amanda's actor America Olivo had to endure 3 hours of putting on fake burnt skin. Meanwhile, her stunt double Donna Evans had to hang inside a sleeping bag with actual fire near it. Evans also had to fall out of the bag without catching herself. That's not easy. Whitney and Mike come across Camp Crystal Lake, sitting abandoned in a dilapidated state. It's a perfect place to explore if you're into busted boob tubes and whistle collections. Mike finds a locket with a picture of a woman inside that looks like Whitney. It's a pic of Pam. We saw little boy Jason collected after her death in the intro. Jason probably still lives here, judging by that bed and the shrine they discovered. Wait, a shrine? That can only mean, yes, a Mrs. Voorhees head! Oh, dude, those are collector's items. A blade begins to pierce through the floor like a BattleBot hazard, and it goes into Mike's legs a whole bunch. The guy is already weak as shit when Jason comes through the floor and kills Mike off screen after dragging him underground. Director Marcus Nispel wanted to avoid CG as much as possible, but since this scene had close-ups on Mike's face, actor Nick Manel couldn't use a stunt double. He just had to hit his marks as the special effects team made pre-programmed fake blades come up out of the floor. Maybe Manel could handle it though, having already faced Rob Zombie's Michael Myers when he played Bob in that remake. Whitney flees from pop-up Jason and runs back to the campsite where she finds the darkest timeline going on. Should have never let Troy get the pizzas. I mean, America has been burned to the ground. Richie's still bear trap boy, but not for long. Jason gets there, hauling ass like a motherfucker, and sticks his machete deep down into Richie's Whitney's skull. This kill was the first one filmed during production. Ben Feldman had to have his leg in a hole in the ground as a nasty prosthetic was put in the bear trap. For the fatal hack, they used a machete with its blade removed on set. Then a team at Asylum Visual Effects put in the rest of the blade and made half of Feldman's face sag. Can't fake everything though.
I went home that night with footprints on my forehead.
Whitney scrambles away, but Jason runs after her and smacks her into a title card. Yeah, that was just a cold open, y'all. Probably the hottest I've ever seen. Our real story takes place 6 weeks later and follows a different group of horny teens, though none of them as annoying as Wade.
May the force be with you, Schwartz!
I really didn't like that guy. The douchiest one by far is Trent, who's such a dick he hurries a guy who's trying to find his missing sister.
Hey, are you gonna buy something? I mean, you've been up here for quite a while yapping.
The missing sister is Whitney from the cold open, and this guy is her brother Clay, played by Jared Padalecki. He'd have been 4 seasons into Supernatural by now. 4 seasons of like, what, 32, 33? Trent's girlfriend Jenna, played by Danielle Panabaker, apologizes to Clay before he takes off to search some more. Clay's region-wide mission to find his missing sister is similar to the subplot in Friday 4. There, Rob was looking for Jason, the man who killed his 17-year-old sister in Friday 2. Hope Clay fares better than Rob did. If he does, it won't be with any help from the locals. He's rebuffed by unhelpful cops and ominous old ladies alike. One dude he talks to, Donnie, later heads back to a barn so he can look at porn and fondle mannequins.
You remember that special night we had? Remember when you took my virginity?
Jason was in there and is uncomfortable now, so to break the tension, he attacks Donnie the dummy fucker. During the struggle, Donnie rips the cloth mask off from his face.
What the That shit ain't fucking right, dude.
The D-bag-headed Jason responds with a throat slit from his machete. Sorry, Donnie, but maybe there are mannequins you can fuck in heaven. Jason goes to re-bag his head when he sees something far more interesting, a way to graduate from Friday 2 to Friday 3. Yep, it's a goddamn hockey mask. And Jason, brother, fits you like a glove. Playing Jason Voorhees is Derek Mears, a 6'5" stunt performer and actor. He had been in The Hills Have Eyes too and would play a predator the next year. Mears was a huge fan of Friday as a franchise and Jason as a character.
That's Jay. Oh, is that me? It's so wild.
He has alopecia and said that when his hair fell out as a child, he saw little boy Jason as someone he could relate to. Mears could bring the scary chops to play Jason since he was a cage fighter, but he also has a background in improv comedy and is known as one of the sweetest dudes ever.
Every day, he was a pleasure to be around and just a happy, grateful guy to work with.
I just think the world of him.
Mears was recommended for the role by Scott Stoddard, who helped bring this Jason to life as the movie's makeup artist. Stoddard, who also worked on the Texas Chainsaw remake, designed this Jason just like the script was written, using the best bits and pieces from the first 4 films. He took Jason's asymmetrical face from parts 1 and 4 and mixed it with his mountain man appearance from part 2. Stoddard designed a head wrap for Jason to wear like the part 2 potato sack, and resculpted the hockey mask from scratch with a design based on the one in part 3. Trent drives his friends to Crystal Lake, where his family owns a cabin. Pretty dope place, I ain't about to lie, which is probably why Trent's so prissy about it.
Guys, wash the floor, alright? Please, it's stained oak.
Like I said, Trent is a supreme asshole, but Travis Van Winkle plays him so well, I actually end up respecting it.
This is an outside game.
Real dumb fact about his character though, Trent first appeared in Transformers, made by Platinum Dunes producer Michael Bay. So Jason and Optimus Prime share a universe? That's weird. I also like the performances by Arlen Escarpeta and Aaron Yu as Lawrence and Chewie, the stoners of the crew. Yu was later in the much worse Nightmare remake, while Escarpeta is currently the last person killed in a Final Destination movie. They make the most of the material they're given, which is nakedly stereotypical. All these characters care about is drinking, drugs, and getting their D's wet. Nolan and Chelsea are also here, and they're not very good friends to Trent.
Now what does that say about me? That the second that Trent said, "Don't take my boat out," it was guaranteed that I would.
Why is this guy evil Owen Wilson? They take Trent's boat out on the lake, and to get this movie's boob quota fulfilled, Chelsea wakeboards topless. Actor Willa Ford wasn't sure about doing the scene, but said it ended up being a good time.
When I left my top, funniest thing is there was nothing sexual about it for me. It was like liberation.
She wipes out hard, but don't worry, girl. Nolan's happy to bring the boat back around. Never mind, he's got an arrow through his head. But how? That boat is so far out in the lake. Might as well have been an arrow shot from Mars. The boat, without a driver, speeds right into Chelsea's head, giving her a bump on the noggin and leaving Jason the Archer intrigued. Yeah, Chelsea, that's Jason the Archer. He's also Jason the Bladesman. He's multi-versatile. Originally, Chelsea was going to die in a sort of psychological way. Jason simply waited her out until she got too tired to tread water and she drowned. I think that would have been great, but the death they went with works as an encapsulation of the entire franchise. Jason stabs her with his machete and gives us a helping of boobs and blood before moving on to his next victim. I like seeing how Ford had to be pulled up by a cable system here. That's fun.
Oh my god, okay.
Clay's door-to-door search for his sister leads to Trent's cabin, where Jenna answers the door and is nice to him. She's sick of Trent, who acts like an exploding douchebag and kicks Clay out of the cabin. Joke's on you though, brah, because Jenna offers to help Clay on his search. The two of them explore the woods and eventually the abandoned Camp Crystal Lake. Then it gets dark real fast. Was there some kind of time lapse or something? While searching through the last cabin, the floor gives out. Just what I thought. Doll infestation. Y'all gonna have to tent that cabin. On their way out, they hear and hide from someone coming. Jason carrying a headless body with him. When J-Man sees Clay's backpack, he goes on high alert, turning on floodlights and searching through his collection of canoes. I love this portrayal of Jason as an intelligent and savvy backwoodsman. Case in point, this tripwire that Clay and Jenna hit on their way out. It rings a bell in a subterranean layer, which is where Jason has Whitney. He's keeping her safe because she looks like his mom, which was pointed out by Mike before he died.
It looks like you.
This scene is longer in the director's cut, and I'm sad they cut what they did. I like Jason sharpening his machete and the whole thing where Whitney gets away for a little bit, but this kill count is using the theatrical version as far as death time codes go. Back at the cabin, horny girl Bree dances in a way so cliche it's indistinguishable from the parody in Cabin in the Woods. To be fair though, that's kinda what they're going for here.
Let's just all be one big happy cliche.
A flaming shot causes Chewie to break an old family chair, and to calm the angry Trent down, Bree leads him into the bedroom. There, they have the most ridiculous sex scene ever, complete with porn-worthy dialogue.
Your tits are stupendous. Your tits are fucking just so juicy, dude. You got perfect nipple placement, baby.
Jenna and Clay get back to the cabin, and I guess the threat of a killer outside is enough to make her not care that her boyfriend's banging someone else. There's never a single line from her acknowledging that happened. Chewie is out in the shed looking for tools to fix that chair. Ah yes, Scotch, the perfect wood adhesive. He ends up breaking a light with a hockey stick, after which Jason shows up.
Are you looking for this? Cause it completes your outfit.
Jason attacks Chewie and kills him by sticking a screwdriver in his neck for a very long time. And you know the sound Chewie's making there too. You know, something like Aaron Yu had to get an appendectomy during production, but despite his stomach still having stitches in it, he wanted to go all out filming his death scene.
He starts to choke and he's gagging. And he goes to the ground and we end the scene. I go, dude, are you okay? What's going on? And he goes, no. I had the blood in my mouth, and rather than just come out of my mouth, I try to inhale it into my sinuses so it will come out. And I go, you are far too committed for this.
Jason cuts the lights of the cabin, causing Lawrence to realize that Chewie might be in trouble.
My boy's still out there. I'm gonna go get him.
Man, Lawrence and Chewie really do a lot to make this movie's character group bearable. He heads out to the shed and finds Chewie's dead body, then finds Jason, the man responsible for it. Lawrence puts up a decent fight and gets away momentarily, but the J-Man grabs an axe and fells the poor guy by chucking it into his back. Holy damn, Jason, you could hustle at the Ren Fair, dude. Lawrence cries out for help, but Clay reminds Jenna that this Jason's a crafty son of a Pam.
He's using your friend as bait.
And so, Lawrence is left outside dying until Jason puts him out of his misery by flipping him onto his back, driving that axe through his torso. And wait, now Jason's on the roof? Don't you start that teleporting shit, mister! While Trent is grabbing a gun to take back control of the situation, Bree goes upstairs and winds up by herself in a room where the window's open. It's open because J-Man's in the house! He grabs Bree and suffocates her for a bit before impaling her on an antler-shaped clothes hanger. Guess he's leaving her out to die. The police show up thanks to a phone call from Clay before Jason cut the phone lines. Officer Brackey here had earlier told Clay to go home, but now he's ready to be helpful, and Jason's ready for him to be dead. Jason stabs him through the eye in one of my favorite shots. I love how it pans through the wall like that. Actor Richard Burgi wore a vacuform plate over his eye with a silicone appliance of a fire poker handle attached. In keeping with Nispel's goal to have as little CG as possible, this camera movement was done practically and looks friggin' great. The trio of survivors run outside and Trent hops into the cop car. Before he can get it running though, Bree's body crashes through the window windshield. All screamed out, Trent takes off by himself and ends up on the side of a road. After nearly getting hit, Trent is beckoned forward by a truck driver. And don't worry, Trent, Jason's not driving that truck, it's just an old man. Jason's standing behind you. Trent is killed by Jason with a machete and a hay baler in the back of the truck. Ha, then his body goes off for a ride. Bye! This kill is so over the top because it needs to be. Trent's an asshole and we spend the entire movie waiting for him to die. Jason's stab and saw was done with a simple slider device worn by Travis Van Winkle.
I think this is the Slidey McDougal. That's what I call it.
He was then affixed to a wire system that stuck him to the right spot on the back of that truck. Clay and Jenna get back to Camp Crystal Lake, and when Whitney hears them walking around, she screams up for help. Clay finds a hatch that leads him and Jenna into Jason's subterranean hang zone. It's got a wheelchair as a reference to Mark from Friday 2. Jason's tunnel system, which was built on a soundstage, was written to explain how he could pop up seemingly anywhere. They wanted to avoid any suggestions of teleportation. This Jason isn't supernatural in the slightest. Underground, Clay finally finds his sister Whitney. Aw, that's nice. As he breaks the chains that bind her, Jason hops back down into his pad. Y'all best get the fuck on out of there. Jason sees that he has company, and that dude's fast when he's pissed. I know Jason ran a bit in parts 2, 3, and 4, but that always felt like he was pretend running. This Jason hauls ass. As they're squeezing through a narrow point to get back above ground, Jenna is stabbed through the back in a surprising kill. Danielle Panabaker is grade A final girl material. Can't believe she's gone in a flash like that. Clay and Whitney climb out through a school bus and run through the rain to a farm. It's where Clay had talked to Donnie earlier. You know, when Donnie was using a wood chipper. So yeah, that thing's here. As Clay is looking for weapons, Jason pulls the old Feldman pants shitter and jumps through a window exactly like he did in the final chapter. He and Clay fight for a bit, and it's honestly kind of even. I mean, both these dudes are pretty much the exact same height. The wood chipper gets turned on, and Jason sees it as a quick opportunity. Why, with this, he could kill Clay in a New York minute. Before he can, Whitney steps out to do the Mama Voorhees act.
Jason!
Yep, she's imitating Mrs. Voorhees, since remember, she looks like her. It's in the locket. It's a move borrowed from Ginny in Friday 2, and it works just as effectively here. The distraction allows Clay to get some chains around Jason's neck, which Whitney then tosses into the wood chipper. The gears pull Jason up and start to hang him from the rafters, reminding me of what Chris Higgins did to the J-Man in part 3. But nothing from the older movies matched Jason's fate here, which is only sealed after Whitney hits him with a yo mama joke.
Say hi to mommy in hell!
Whitney's actor Amanda Rigetti didn't even want to say that line.
I fought that tooth and nail. I was like, oh, guys, really? That's cheesy.
Cheesy or not, she kills Jason when his head goes back into the grinder. And yeah, I'll count him as dead here. In this timeline, he's not a Superman or anything. The sun rises and they toss Jason's body into the lake, followed by his mask and his mama locket, both of which sink to the bottom. And I'm still saying he's dead even though he pops up through the dock at the end. I feel like that's more of a reference to all those chair jumper dream endings than an actual canonical statement that Jason Voorhees somehow survived. How many bodies did we find at our last stop on the Friday recount train? Let's find out and run like Jason to the numbers. I counted 15 kills in the Friday the 13th reboot. 10 of the victims were male and only 5 were female, giving us a 2-to-1 ratio of dudes. With a runtime of 97 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 6.47 minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Amanda. A lot of great kills in this one, but her sleeping bag roasting still feels the most horrific to me. Plus, she was oiling herself up before it happened. That skin would have been so crispy. Dog machete for lamest kill will go to Mike, who got pulled underground and killed off screen. Fun fact, it wasn't Derek Mears playing Jason here. He was off getting married and someone else filled in for him. That means Mike got killed by Jason Zorin, pretty much. And that's it. The Friday the 13th reboot came out in 2009, and despite a solid box office performance, it was the last feature film in the franchise. There have been some solid fan shorts, and the video game was great when it got updates, but movie theaters have been Voorhees free for over a decade now. Hopefully that changes with the recent lawsuit developments, and if it does, you know where to come for the kill count after a Blu-ray release. Until next time, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count.
Alright, I have no idea how to sell you the next movie.
Happy birthday, Billy.
I mean, how the fuck do you talk about spooky? Where do I start? The fact that it's 2 movies made into one?
Hey, don't look at me.
I've had this ad blocker for 1 week and it's already blocked over 1,000 ads. Meet Pi, a Chrome extension that blocks ads and it's completely free. What's really crazy is that if you opt in, Pi will actually pay you to see ads. And if it sounds too good to be true, trust me, it's not. It has thousands of 5-star reviews, plus they have a visual mode that lets you watch your ads disappear from your screen. So crazy that ads took up 42% of the page. So if you never want to see this ad again, get Pi right now.
I'm going to show you guys how my style went from this to this. All I had to do was fill out a style quiz. It asked me different things like my fit preference, any troubles I have while shopping. I get to try on everything at home and return anything that I don't like for free. You guys have to check it out.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at Freddy vs. Jason, released in 2003. In our modern age of crossovers and shared universes, it's difficult to overstate how cool it is this movie got made. Sure, the Universal monsters had hung out with each other, but that was half a century prior. In 2003, dream matchups between iconic characters were still mostly relegated to comic books. This was a big-budget showdown between the Dream Demon of Springwood and the hockey masked machete man from Crystal Lake. It was an event so monumental, they held a weighing in at the Vegas Bally's a month before the premiere.
What's the matter? Can't you speak for yourself, hockey puck?
The owners of these two horror titans had been trying to make some form of Freddy weighing in at the Vegas Bally's a month before the premiere.
What's the matter? Can't you speak for yourself, hockey puck?
The owners of these two horror titans had been trying to make some form of Freddy vs. Jason since the late 80s. After 15 years, the movie had become the bastard child of 100 rewrites. 18 drafts were done by 12 screenwriters, some featuring a cult of so-called Fred heads, some with even weirder shit. You don't want to know. Mark Swift and Damian Shannon finally came up with a premise that didn't suck. Freddy has lost his powers because the kids of Springwood have forgotten who he is. To make them remember him, he resurrects Jason from hell and sends him on a killing spree. Then, like so many other evil masterminds, he loses control of his subject and the two go head to head. Freddy vs. Jason found a champion at New Line in Stokely Chaffin, a longtime horror fan who produced I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. But she did not produce I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, so she cool. After meeting with dozens of directors, she hired Hong Kong-born Ronnie Yu. Yu wasn't super familiar with either series, but had just directed Bride of Chucky. He imagined Freddy vs. Jason as a pro wrestling-like event, with two larger-than-life figures going all out against each other.
I just want to make sure that there's enough blood there.
Dude succeeded in that regard, and others. Everything involving Freddy and Jason is great. They each get to shine in their own segments that feel tailored towards their types of terror. You have nightmarish scenes full of supernatural creepy stuff and scenes with senseless slaughter. Great! Even better is that the two of them square off multiple times, each bout better than the last. You grew up a comic book fan, which infiltrates the visual language of the film. He's an imaginative guy who could mentally storyboard his movies, and he has a lot of fun with colors. Aside from the annoying low frame rate slow motion, which I hate, I think he made a great looking film. But Yu wasn't as interested in working with his actors, a mix of Americans and Canadians since this was filmed in Vancouver. Their parts are poorly written and their lack of direction is clear. I don't need all these meatbags to have rich, in-depth backstories, but at least make them somewhat likable. The folks running around here are just annoying. And don't say it doesn't matter because this is a slasher. We've seen plenty of likable characters in many Friday and Nightmare films. I think these jerks are more just a product of their time. The early 2000s had a nasty cynicism, and that nihilistic sarcasm bleeds through here. One last note, this movie's got flashing and strobing lights constantly, so maybe avoid this video if that's gonna affect you. Otherwise, let's see if the ultimate matchup can deliver some ultimate kills. The movie begins in a boiler room, because Freddy's first build in this battle. He also gets first kill, this poor little girl he murders off screen. Hey, what you doing with that picture, dude? This ain't the Nightmare remake yet, please stop. He narrates his origin, like how he was killed by angry parents, though he does leave out that his powers came from a deal with dream demons.
I want it all! Of course you do.
Then open up.
and you shall be forever. Why wouldn't you mention that, Fred? Freddy's become powerless because kids have forgotten him, and to make them remember, he's gonna wake Jason up from hell. Best way to do that is with a whole lot of naked lady flesh, provided here by Odessa Monroe. This very same year, she flashed her boobs on a motorcycle in Final Destination 2. Big year for her boobs. The maniacal mammary plan works, and Jason chases Heather into the woods before killing her with a machete stab that pins her to the tree. And Heather, you only count as one kill. Don't try that face morphing thing to inflate the stats. Yes, I'm counting Heather, even though she's a dream, just like Jason's mom is a dream. It's Pamela Voorhees, played by Paula Shaw. Betsy Palmer was offered the role, but said the dialogue sucked too much.
You promised me you'd kill all those people.
I'm an actress, for God's sake. Don't give me some dumb line like that.
Pamela directs Jason to get up and kill the kids of Elm Street. It'll really help him mother out. And by mother, I mean Freddy. Playing Freddy Krueger for his 8th feature film was Robert Englund, of course, the man synonymous with the character.
Notice who gets top billing?
And honestly, who wouldn't want Englund hanging around?
It's hard to get your motivation when he's being so nice all the time.
When it came to Jason, Kane Hodder seemed equally obvious to Friday fans and Sean S. Cunningham. But New Line kept Cunningham distant from the project, in part because of Jason X's failure. Hodder also suffered from association with his Friday films, which were usually regarded as pretty bad. Additionally, director Ronnie Yu said he wanted his Jason to have expressive eyes. Whereas Freddy was pure evil, the audience could get emotionally invested in Jason. So maybe Hodder's rage-filled murder machine that sometimes veered into humor didn't appeal to the director. I've heard people blame Yu, while he and others blame nameless studio execs.
The decision not to use Kane Hodder really had nothing to do with Ronnie.
But at the end of the day, I just feel bad that Hodder didn't get to be a part of this moment, especially after publicly advocating for the crossover for years.
I really wish I had been able to do it.
Instead of Hodder, Jason was played by 6'5" Canadian Ken Kersinger, a stunt coordinator in his own right and occasionally an actor. We saw him as Palm Mutant in Wrong Turn 2. Kersinger had played a New York cook manhandled by Jason in Takes Manhattan, where he also doubled for Hodder as Jason in 2 shots, getting hit by a car, and I think when they did the third rail bit in the subway tunnel. While I don't like this Jason sad droopy eye, I think Kersinger does well reinventing the character. Gone is Hodder's heavy chest breathing and moving his head before his body. This Jason would be new, and to prove it, you gave him a new hockey mask. This one's browner, has cheek chevrons again, and is free of the Chris Higgins axe mark. Jason heads to Elm Street and the most famous house on the block, inside of which a bunch of teens are drinking, smoking, and lasciviating. Lori, who lives here, is trying to ignore this Blake bloke.
You know about feng shui?
She doesn't get help from her friend Kia, played by Kelly Rowland during Destiny's Child's 3-year hiatus. Blake was brought here by his bro Trey, the super douchey boyfriend to Lori's friend Gib.
Whoa, babe. Tell you about kissing me after you smoked, huh? Babe, make me ask you twice.
Babe, you know I don't like to be touched that much, okay?
Babe, no touchy. Jason appears in the bedroom and kills Trey by stabbing him about 10 times with a machete. Impressively, Trey holds on to his beer the whole time. Good job, Trey. Spoke too soon. Babe, you know I can only sleep when I'm shaped like a V. The kids run screaming until they find the police. The older cops recognize the Freddy Krueger house and try to keep his name under wraps. They fail and Lori overhears them, then repeats the name to herself as she falls asleep at the police station. That's basically an express pass to Nightmareville, USA. Population, a bunch of creepy kids on missing child posters, and one little girl who ain't got no eyes. Little eyeless Annie orders Lori to tell everyone about Fred Krueger, and to help her remember his name, here's a song. Yo, I know this is like the 3rd reunion tour for the Jump Rope Girls, but I'm getting those tickets anyway. I'll take any performance I can get. Since Freddy's in Lori's head now, he wants to try killing again. He decides to go after Blake, who graduated from the Nicolas Cage Acting Academy.
My best friend was just killed, Dad.
Blake's Alex Jones-looking dad there is played by Brett Chapman, who got killed by Michael Myers in the beginning of Halloween Resurrection. Blake drinks himself into a nap, and Freddy attacks him using Shadow Swipe. It's not very effective.
Okay. I'm alright.
Freddy tells the viewers that while he's still weak, Jason will have to keep killing. J-Man's already ahead of him, as Blakey wakies to find his dad decapitated on the porch. Blake grabs the head and hilariously tries to use it as a shield when Jason murders him. Now it's time for the nightmare-flavored characters of the film, as opposed to the more Friday-like group of teens all drinking and sexing. Lori's estranged ex-boyfriend Will and his buddy Mark are institutionalized at Weston, the psychiatric hospital from Nightmare 3 Dream Warriors. Will is played by Jason Ritter, whose dad John Ritter had just been directed by Ronnie Yu in Bride of Chucky. Mark is given an energetic performance by Brendan Fletcher, who was solid in the awful Leprechaun Origins. Will sees on the news that there was a murder at Laurie's house, so Mark uses his butt cheeks to steal some keys and they escape. At school, Laurie tells her friends about the burnt man from her dreams, and Mark shows up to keep yelling about Fred and turn Laurie into a teary baby. He also scares, whoa, Evangeline Lilly? Girl, you've got an oceanic flight to make. With the good word of Fred circulating around, Kia has a dream about him. Got your nose! I didn't realize this nose picking was half practical. They made a mold of Kelly Rowland's nose and designed nose innards behind it, then filmed the bit with the glove punching out and pulling off the nose in front of green screens. They also filmed real finger knives in Rowland's nose, with the glove worn by VFX supervisor Ariel Velasco Shaw. He and VFX producer Kevin Elam tried to incorporate practical effects whenever possible, even when it came to stuff like the face-morphing tree victim in the beginning. Sometimes they ran into issues, like with the blood drops in Laurie's police station nightmare. They wanted to do those practically, but it didn't look right, not even with special prosthetics on a green screen. Doesn't look awful, considering how hard it is to fake fluids. Springwood's having a cornfield rager where glow sticks and slow motion substitute for style. Laurie, how hard are you rolling right now, girl? She's hit on by Linderman, the nerdy guy who likes her and who's always trading insults with Kia.
We don't have time for data dork right now.
You tear me down to make yourself feel better because you really hate yourself, which is kind of pathetic when you actually stop and think about it, assuming of course you can think, with all that makeup weighing down your head.
I don't like either of them, nor the goofy bully Shaq who holds Linderman down and douses him with beer. In fact, I wouldn't mind these characters dying. Anyone know where oh, Jason, I was just about to call you, man. Before he can get to business, a mournful Gib sneaks away to cry about her dead boyfriend. Oh, hey, Gib, there he is, as a decapitated head. Gib's played by Catherine Isabel, who we've seen in Bones in the Carrie miniseries. She's worked a ton in horror, most notably as Ginger in the Ginger Snap films. That horror pedigree doesn't stop her from falling asleep in cornfields though. While nightmaring, she's treated to a parade of Freddy Krueger classics. When Freddy goes for the kill, Gib's chest explodes in his face. She's been impaled in real life along with a would-be rapist, courtesy of Jason, who chucks the guy into the air. See ya! Aw, is there a killer who's whiny he didn't get that kill?
She's mine! Mine!
Yes, there is. Listen, Fred, you're the one who ordered a murder machine. Don't complain when it shows up working perfectly. Jason keeps the kills coming with a bad-looking head twist on this random jock dude. Damn, that looks shitty. Shaq uses Everclear to light Jason on fire, which makes sense because it's high-proof. But now Shaq's got a bigger problem, since Jason continues to chase him during a bitching fire stunt. After a short chase, Jason's like, boom! Throws his blade in the air for a stab. It goes through Shaq's body, goddamn! I swear, I'm just telling you the facts of how Jason killed Shaq. Now Jason's gonna fuck up everybody's night. I'll count 8 kills here, 2 more than I did before. I never noticed these 2 background bodies. They're not dressed like any of the other 6 kills, which are mostly pretty bad, by the way. You can see this guy's blood contraption underneath his shirt, and this dude goes down bleeding even though Jason clearly misses him. I've never been a fan of the rave massacre scene, but the more I learn about the fire stunt, the more I'm impressed. Ken Kersinger wanted to do it, but since they didn't want to risk their Jason actor, stunt performer Glenn Ennis stepped in. Ennis wore a layer of Nomex, a high-temperature resistant material, which was then slathered in fire-resistant gel. He looks like a greasy baby there. Aw, and they filled his gloves with it too? Gross. On top of the gel, an accelerant was sprayed to ignite quickly and keep the fire going. Ennis had to breathe through an apparatus in the hockey mask as he walked 75 feet fully engulfed in flames. The smoke blocked his sight, so he had to do it blind, directed by a radio in his ear. Watching what went into this stunt makes me more forgiving of these lame-ass kills. Who cares if a blood-spraying prosthetic is visible? They had a man on fire there! The important thing was making sure they put him out.
That was the last burn scene with Glenn Ennis, ladies and gentlemen.
Silly Willy shows up and helps the other characters get away. He drops them off, then tells Laurie why he got locked up in the first place. One time, a few years ago, he watched through her window as Laurie's dad killed her mom. Shitty dad, dude. Together, they go to Mark's since he's their Freddy expert. But that sleepy little guy has dozed off on his feet and now he's dreaming about his dead brother. Great casting of these two as siblings. Brother Bobby looks just like Mark, only with yellow eyes. So help me God, yellow eyes! I'll put Bobby on the count now since we see him in his disturbing lingering death state, murdered by Fred Krueger but deemed a suicide. Mark gets attacked in a nightmare-style scene that ends far too quickly. We all know Freddy does great work in the bathroom. Will and Lori get there just in time to watch Mark get murdered in his sleep. Krueger sends him out with a message and a branding that kinda looks like the Fight Club soap, IMO. There's a summit of awful characters in the basement of Stoner Freeberg, who should probably be out looking for his missing Silent Bob.
And screw that clown. Now that big-ass motherfucker back at the cornfield. Alright, that's who we should be afraid of. Tell me who the fuck that was.
They're joined by Deputy Stubbs, a newbie to Springwood, who's been kept in the dark about Fred Krueger by his boss, Sheriff Williams. Williams is played by Gary Chalk, another beacon of light in the inky black turd of Leprechaun origins. Stubbs is played by Lachlan Monroe, now known for Riverdale, but to me, he'll always be the Ryan Phillippe knockoff in Scary Movie. Stubbs has learned about Jason Voorhees and tells the others his backstory. Big Brain Will puts the pieces together real fast.
I mean, what if Freddy brought Jason back? Because he was too weak to go after us on his own, so he used Jason.
Shit, dude, you nailed it. That is this movie's plot. This scene is all plot stuff with the clunkiest of dialogue.
Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use that?
This wasn't part of the original script written by Mark Swift and Damian Shannon, but that thing was 130 pages long and would have run an estimated 2.5 hours. To fix it, director Ronnie Yu brought in writer David S. Goyer, who had written Blade and who would go on to co-write The Dark Knight. He also wrote Demonic Toys. Don't ever forget that, Dave! Goyer condensed the script, giving the movie its enjoyable breakneck pace.
Making scenes that were 3 scenes before into one scene, and when you do that, that one scene becomes a lot more dramatic and a lot more interesting.
The only downside is exposition dump shortcuts, like this scene and when Freddy freaking talks to the audience.
Not strong enough yet. Well, I will be soon enough.
Test screenings, which we usually complain about, also help streamline the film. They led to the removal of long scenes with forced emotional beats and even got rid of the occasional cheesy line.
Freddy versus Jason. Place your bets.
Lori has a wee baby nightmare where her friends become mean and her dad makes out with her. But she's gonna have to wait to analyze this Elektra shit. Right now, she's gotta push rapey Fred away and bring his ear into the real world. Wait, the real world? Yes, that's right. And just like Nancy Thompson learned in the original Nightmare, this may be the key to defeating Freddy. The kids remember Hypnosil, the dream-suppressing drug that was introduced in Nightmare 3, so they sneak into Weston Hills to steal a supply and keep themselves safe in slumber. They won't have to worry about the security guard either. That guy gets crushed with a door by Jason following them inside. During their hospital heist, Freeberg stays behind to light one up. Must be some heavy shit, cause now this Freddy Pillar bug bro is here, breaking out the hookah like this were Wonderland. The Freddy Pillar almost got cut to save money, but I'm glad they kept it in. I also love seeing these hilarious pre-visualizations of the effect, and the practical maquette they used on set. After a buggy shotgun, Berg winds up with the slug down his throat, and you thought we were done with Jason Goes to Hell, didn't ya? Now Freeberg's possessed by Freddy, so he dumps all the Hypnosil down the drain. Linderman stumbles upon him just in time to give this hilarious reaction.
Dude, no! Dude!
Jason joins the party and secures a kill with a secondhand Voorhees special. He grabs onto Stubbs and electrocutes him by means of a machete and electrical shit. I love how this doesn't seem to bother Jason one bit. J-Man chases after the others, but Freaky Freeberg don't flee with them.
Let me handle this, bitch.
He's got 2 supersized vials of drugs and sticks them into Jason with vigor. Before the J-Man collapses completely, he slashes Freeberg in half. Oh man, that's how you treat a body you're borrowing, Fred? It's like returning your friend's car on empty. The passed out Jason winds up in a Dreamland boiler room where Freddy attacks him bathed in red light. At first it seems like Jason's got things under control, but this is Freddy's world, bitch. So let's get ready to rumble! Fred, don't scratch up the mask. Dude just got a new one, come on. Freddy plays pinball with Jason's body, thrusting him back and forth with some booyaka booyakas. This is apparently when Freddy's stunt double was Rey Mysterio, but I can't find any details about it or clips of people talking about it. The nightmare ends with Freddy learning that Jason has a fear of water, a plot point so stupid Swift and Shannon vocally disown it.
I just want to put the record straight. We never said that Jason was afraid of water. We never wrote that. That was not in our script.
They had intended to suggest Jason might have a fear of drowning, but during the revision process, that got changed. It's absurd given that we know Jason's an accomplished swimmer. He's got an underwater hang zone with naked chicks, dude. He swam from a sinking ship all the way to the New York docks. Speaking of which, are we sure this water isn't New York's toxic waste? Does it just turn Jason into a little naked boy? Come on, movie. Nobody wants to see this again. Freddy finger hacks Jason's brain, and I guess I'll count 8 brain bodies here. 2 in the foreground, 1 that Jason's dragging, a couple of heads in the background, and 3 bodies floating in a closet. No, not you, Heather. I already counted you. The inner workings of Jason's mind required a combination of practical and visual effects. Production designer John Willett built Jason's slanting house in the middle of Bunsen Lake in Vancouver, British Columbia. Willett also recreated the Freddy house on Elm Street using a lookalike they found. I'm surprised I didn't notice it wasn't the original. I love that house! The visual effects team added the atmospherics and comped in Jason's closet full of floaty, soggy bodies. As with their other effects, they tried to go as practical as possible, but they often ran into issues that forced them to use CG. Like in the pinball sequence, they originally filmed the stunt performer on wires making impact at various points. They only wanted to animate him in between the hits. But then Ronnie Yu saw a version that was all CG.
And Ronnie saw it, he's like, oh, that, I like that. That's what I want. And it became like, you want that?
The kids take Jason's passed out body and start driving from Springwood, Ohio to Crystal Lake, New Jersey, at minimum a 6-hour drive. Their plan is to get Jason on his home turf, where he's strongest, then pull Freddy into the real world and watch Jason beat his ass. Laurie puts herself to sleep so she can abduct the Fredster from Dreamland. She finds herself at Camp Crystal Lake in the 1950s, where Jason's a boy getting teased by other campers, and Freddy is a counselor who's fucking a dead chick? What the fuck, Fred? Laurie tries to help Jason, but Freddy holds him down, causing him to drown in real life. He wakes up, and in the commotion, the van crashes and sends him flying. See ya. Jason disappears from Dreamworld, which pisses off Fred and turns him all sorts of red. I absolutely love this flying Freddy shot, and I dig how nasty his makeup looks here. Really cranks up the guy's evilness. Freddy's demon look was designed by Bill Terazakis, a Canadian makeup artist who worked on tons of horror movies, including Wrong Turn 2 and Final Destination 2. I was hoping to meet Terazakis one day, but while writing the script, I learned that he passed away in June at only 55 years old. Really bummed out about that. Rest in peace, man. His work here is dope. He added a layer of musculature over Freddy's classic look, then gave him sharp teeth and scary contact lenses. Speaking of Freddy's classic look, it was applied by Pat Murray and Margaret Jaworski. The foam latex pieces were airbrushed ahead of time, then stuck on Robert Englund's face, which was covered in an adhesive.
It's evolved over the years. Now it's, they wouldn't have been able to do a single piece this large a couple of years ago.
It took 3 hours to put on and 1 to remove, but Englund says the latex was porous and could at least breathe a little. Laurie's stuck in a nightmare back at her house on Elm Street, and in it, she sees what really happened to her mom. Her dad didn't kill her, it was Freddy freaking Krueger.
I've always had a thing for the whores that live in this house.
Don't you call Nancy Thompson a whore, you bastard! Laurie trips over some buckling floorboards that would be awesome if not for the strobing lights and choppy slow-mo.
Welcome to my world, bitch.
Fix your world's frame rate, bitch. Laurie's friends carry her the rest of the way to Camp Crystal Lake, where they're shortly joined by Jason. He Kool-Aid mans his way inside a cabin and accidentally starts a fire. That wakes up Laurie and allows her to grab Freddy and bring him into the real world. Now it's time for round 2 of FVJ, a relatively short Inferno match that has some decent spots. I like when Jason runs Freddy through the windows. He looks like Cabal doing an X-ray. This bout ends with Jason flinging Freddy into the air and through a roof. Before Laurie and Fred even joined the party, J-Man was already flinging folks around. That's how Linderman wound up impaled through his side, which is why he's now bleeding against a tree. I like that he and Kia were given a little arc together, even if it wasn't well executed. He tells her he'll be fine and that she should go help the others, but he was lying. He will not be fine. That dude deader than a lecherous camp counselor. Kia gets back to camp and talks mad shit to Fred Krueger with some dialogue Swift and Shannon stress were not written by them. She doesn't realize that she's backing up right into Jason Voorhees, who sends her flying to her death against a tree. Ugh, again with the choppy slow-mo. I wish someone had told Ronnie Yu no. We're back to Freddy vs. Jason again, and this last bout has got some length to it. After a regular brawl, Freddy starts launching huge tanks at the J-Man. He's hit and flies backwards with a great wire stunt that lands him at a construction site, a vestige of earlier story drafts that involved a housing development subplot. Freddy impales Jason with a bunch of rebar and knocks him around silly with a swinging cement mixer. This entire final sequence was a heavy lift for stunt coordinators Monty Simons and Scott Attia. They had already dealt with the intense cornfield fire stunt and flinging Ken Kersinger out of a van spinning around on a giant gimbal. Now they had to do a ton of wire stunts, requiring the expertise of veteran stunt rigger Kurt Bond, who passed away in 2017. Rest in peace. The stunt team was grateful for the stars they worked with. Kersinger was of course a stunt coordinator himself, so professional he could finish a scene even with his foot accidentally stuck in a box. The 55-year-old Robert Englund wanted to do as much as he could, which is why that's him hanging upside down in the cement mixer and doing his own underwater shots. But for the high-flying wire stunts, Doug Chapman stepped in, meaning he's the guy who flew through the air at the awesome dock shot. Man, that looks like it'd be so much fun to do! F and J fight back and forth until a cart launches them to the final fighting stage, the Crystal Lake docks. There, we get our biggest hits and most voluminous blood sprays. I appreciate that it's filmed in long shots instead of quick cuts. Don't give me that Kevin Dunn bullshit.
Just put the camera there and let them chop each other out.
Freddy cuts off Jason's fingers, leaving him with a handful of chodes. Then he takes Jason's machete and dual wields the two iconic weapons. Finally, he sticks his finger knives deep into Jason's eye holes and chest. Meanwhile, Lori and Dipper Pines have been dousing the dock in gasoline. She runs with a torch like an Uruk-hai at Helm's Deep and lights it all ablaze. That puts the fear of God into Freddy, because remember,
Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use it?
As the fire rages on, Jason rips off Freddy's arm. Fred sticks him deep with his own machete until an explosion goes off. It sends them flying in a stunt that earned Chapman and Ennis a nomination for a Taurus World Stunt Award. Wait, there's a stunt award show with live performances sometimes? That's awesome! Lori and Will survive, but don't you sappy sops be hugging just yet, because walking towards them with a machete is Freddy freaking Krueger. He's one-armed and pissed. Jason interferes a final time before he must go, for his people need him. Lori finishes the job herself by using Fred Krueger's words against him.
Welcome to my world, bitch!
She takes that machete and decapitates Freddy, killing him enough for me to put him on the count. I mean, look at that body. Look at that head. I know he's gonna wink later, but the Fred is dead. Jason's not dead though. He's just taking an underwater nap. Here's his machete for when he wakes up. Lori and Will hobble away, the movie ready to end. At first, they weren't sure how to end it though. Originally, it ended in hell, complete with an appearance from Satan. At one point, Pinhead showed up, but New Line doesn't even own that guy. One ending, written by David Goyer, was filmed with a PG-13 sex scene and Will possessed by Freddy Krueger. They settled on a simple shot of Jason rising out of the lake carrying Freddy's head. Since the filmmakers were back in Los Angeles at this point, they used Doug Tate to play the J-Man, as Kersinger was in Canada. Freddy, of course, was still played by Robert Englund. Look at him in that green screen shirt. Fred gets the last laugh, literally, after winking to the audience on their way out. Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James H. Adise, and today we're finally starting the franchise that so many of you have been waiting for, Final Destination, beginning with the original film from the year 2000. Final Destination is a film that asks, what happens when you escape death? Its answer is that death comes for you. The film's screenplay was originally written by Jeffrey Reddick, based on one of his own spec scripts for an X-Files episode. After New Line purchased the film, they brought on director James Wong and producer Glenn Morgan, who together rewrote Reddick's original draft. The final film was further altered after test screenings by New Line founder Bob Shea, Michigan's own, who had found success years earlier producing the Nightmare on Elm Street films. With all those cooks in the kitchen, Final Destination kind of ended up being a horror film by committee, and it sometimes feels that way with all the weird little asides and disjoint tangential ideas that never really add up to anything. The idea at the core of the film, however, was a powerful one that resonated with audiences and would lead to the production of 4 sequels, each made a few years apart from each other, and with the last 2 filmed in glorious 3D. That core idea, which would be repeated in every installment, is all about death getting even. In each film, one character's graphic and detailed premonition allows a small group of people to escape a major catastrophe that would have otherwise killed them. The premonition disasters are a hallmark of the series and usually do a great job exploiting common fears like flying, automobile accidents, roller coasters, and going to NASCAR races. The survivors who escape these accidents, thereby cheating death, then begin to die in the order in which they were supposed to. And they don't die in any old way either. See, in the Final Destination series, it turns out that Death, kind of a little schemer. And instead of just making these people's hearts give out on them or anything, Death sets up elaborate mousetrap-like chain reactions that oftentimes lead to an unusually violent death. These graphic Rube Goldberg kills are the other hallmark of the franchise, and as to be expected, they grow more and more grotesque as the series continues, which, yes, will mean some censoring in the public releases of these episodes, while explicit versions will be available for patrons. Sorry man, it's just how it goes. How many kills will Death score in this first film, which seems so quaint compared to what's to come? Let's find out and get to them. The movie begins with a thundery, rainy title card. The opening credits play over cryptic images of hanging dolls and oscillating fans as someone gets ready for a trip to Paris. That someone is high school senior Alex Browning, played by Devon Sawa during the 2 or 3 years he was a hot commodity. Although maybe we're about to get a Sawana-sance, since Devon stars in the upcoming film The Fanatic alongside friggin' John Travolta and directed by Limp Bizkit's own Fred Durst. Yeah! Alex is a superstitious kind of guy who's nervous about his French class's flight ahead of him.
Whoa, mama, you gotta leave that on. Tell you, man, the last flight without the plane crashing or anything, so I figured it's gotta be on the bag, or at least with the bag.
Pretty paranoid there, but I can't hate this guy when he's got a Buck Cherry poster hanging in his room. They were the first band I ever saw live, and I don't care what you say, that first album was a banger. Alex goes to the airport where we meet some of his classmates who will also be going to the City of Lights. First, there's resident fuckboy Carter, who's played by Kerr Smith, who would go on to be in My Bloody Valentine 3D. Carter's got a girlfriend named Terry who doesn't do much other than make out with him, and he likes to spend his time bullying nerds like this hockey jersey wearing kid named Billy Hitchcock, played by Sean William Scott.
Dick.
Yep, as you will come to hear, Carter's a dick.
Let me give you a hand with this, man.
There you go. Carter, you dick!
There's also the obvious love interest for Alex, a girl named Clear Rivers, played by Allie Larder. You can tell she's a squiggly lines intellectual because she walks through the airport reading Henry frickin' Miller. Alex's best friends, though, are a pair of brothers named George and Todd. Todd is played by Chad Dinella, who would go on to be an obnoxious piece of shit character in the obnoxious piece of shit movie Saw 3D.
You're crazy. I knew you were crazy the minute I laid eyes on you. Crazy.
But in this movie, he's not so much a piece of shit as he has to take a shit. And he and Alex are so tight that they're bona fide pooping partners. Although they ain't singing together like Demon and Anita, their pre-flight dump does feature some music, since the radio is playing Rocky Mountain High by John Denver.
Kind of plane crash.
Uh-oh. A coincidence like that is sure to freak out the superstitious Alex right before he boards Bully Flight 180.
Your birthday is the same as your departure time. September 25, 9:25.
And I guess that coincidence will freak him out too? But wait, Alex, what are you freaked out about here, man? That's just a flight status board. It's useful information. Alex gets worried about a ton of things in this movie, which are always presented with foreboding push-ins and bass tones. But everything's so innocuous, it's hard for me to take it seriously. Like, that's just a plane, Alex. It's not ominous. It's just 20th century travel technology. They board their flight and feel reassured of its safety by the sight of a crying baby.
That's a good sign. Younger the better. Be a fucked up guy to take down this plane.
Oh, that's kind of dark, but I guess it's a solid line.
A really fucked up god.
Okay, that one might be in bad taste though. Alex takes his assigned seat, but is asked to switch spots with one of these generically attractive early 2000s chicks. He does, and although his new seat is next to Todd, its tray latch is broken, and you know the airline ain't gonna do a damn thing about that. The plane's takeoff is smooth at first, and everybody cheers. But things take a tumultuous turn real damn fast, and pretty soon those oxygen masks are popping out of the overhead. But hate to tell you folks, a little bit of extra airflow ain't gonna help when a fire starts on board and a whole row of seats get sucked out the side of the plane. Holy shit! Another fire burst spreads through the cabin, and we watch Alex's face cook for a nice hot minute until he finally wakes up back in his original seat on the plane, those she's all that looking chicks asking him to switch again. Alex quickly determines that his dream was more like a premonition, and he calmly explains everything he just saw to the others on board.
Fucking plane's gonna explode!
Haha, never mind. Alex fucks shit up and even fucking starts a riot. A riot! During the commotion, a handful of students are removed from the plane along with both teacher chaperones. happens. Todd leaves his brother George to go check on Alex, and Clear opts to remove herself voluntarily, since things are getting so spooky. The pilot bars all of them from his plane, but since both French teachers are here, they convince him to let one of them back on board to chaperone the rest of the class headed to Paris. Although Larry Murnau offers to stay, Valerie Luton insists he go ahead, so she stays behind as he reboards the plane. Alex tries explaining himself, which only leads to another fight with Carter, and while they scuffle, Billy watches out the window as the rest of his class heads to Paris.
There they go. Here we stay.
Yep, there they go, alright. Flight 180's explosion somehow breaks the airport windows, which I would like to see myth busted, please. And just like that, we've got a new kill count record. The movie will later give us a number to use when it reports that 287 people died on Flight 180.
All 287 passengers are feared dead.
See? As far as premonition kills go, I won't be including them on the kill count because they're just visions. And besides, the same people end up dying for real later and getting counted anyway. As you might expect, everyone is immediately suspicious of Alex, even though he rightfully claims he didn't cause the explosion to happen. Dude, just be happy this was pre-9/11, or you'd probably already be on your way down to Gitmo. Even pre-Patriot Act though, the FBI is obviously getting involved, and two bland dudes in suits introduce themselves as Agent Wayne and Agent Shrek. Yep, Agent Shrek. The DreamWorks movie came out 2 years later, in 2001, thereby making this character retroactively hilarious. Fun fact though, Agent Shrek is named after Max Schreck, who played Count Orlok in Nosferatu, and many other characters are also named after classic horror film creators. You got Alex Browning, who comes from Todd Browning, director of Universal's 1931 Dracula, Agent Wayne, who comes from Robert Wayne, director of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and of course, Billy Hitchcock, who comes from Alfred Hitchcock, director of like a billion movies, including The Birds. These feds are also suspicious of Alex, but they're unable to learn anything during their questioning, except that Val Luton feels guilty for sending the other teacher back onto the plane. Survivor's guilt, man. It'll get you. A month later, there's a funeral service for Alex's classmates, and in their honor, the school uncovers a statue of a bird? Really? Maybe it should have gone with something that doesn't remind people of Flight. At the service, we see that everyone's got a different reaction towards Alex. Clear thanks him for her life, Billy believes that he's a full-blown psychic, and Ms. Luton is literally repulsed by him.
Don't talk to me, you scared the hell out of me.
As for Carter, he's still got no love for the Sawister, and instead decides that his survival has left him untethered to the mortal realm.
I'm never gonna die.
The worst fallout for Alex, though, is that Todd's dad blames him for the death of Todd's brother George, so the Poopin' Pals are presently off limits to each other, no longer allowed to defecate as a duo. And so, that night, Todd is forced to take a solo squat in his bathroom at home, never noticing the drippy valve leaking behind his porcelain throne. For some reason, he tries to shave his non-existent facial hair only to cut himself before a cloudy image appears behind him in his mirror, portending the fatal disaster that awaits him. Look out, Todd, that leaky water's coming at ya, and it's